Hello, today's review is going to be Exit. I'm largely going to be reviewing the Pharaoh's Tomb in the Exit series, but most of the other games are going to follow a very similar format. Largely, I'm going to also be avoiding spoilers, so this is going to be a pretty short and sweet review just to kind of give a quick overview of how you play and just sort of how it's done and what I finally think. So the Pharaoh's Tomb and basically all of Exit games are going to have you trying to escape from a room. In the Pharaoh's Tomb, it happens to be a Pharaoh's Tomb. There are others out. There's a cabin and there's a lab. There are some other ones coming along, but they're all basically sort of the same thing. So what do you do in Exit? How do you escape from the room? Basically, you have a host of tools at your disposal. First and foremost is going to be the journal or some sort of booklet. In this case, it's the notes of Dr. Ford, which is going to give you your first hints, some pictures, some hints of the other clues and puzzles you're going to be solving, and basically sort of a guide to get out of the Pharaoh's Tomb. Your most important tool is going to be the code wheel. It's a pretty standard code wheel. In the Pharaoh's Tomb, it uses hieroglyphics, and most of the others, it's going to be numbers. But basically the way it works, the outer ring corresponds to a puzzle, which once you sort of understand which the symbols correspond to what puzzle, you'll start to recognize it easily. Then you're going to line it up and so that the numbers, or in this case the hieroglyphics, match to what you think the solution is. Then the center code wheel is going to give you a number. That number corresponds to a number in the answer card deck. From there, you get to look when you flip it over. Sometimes there's another little riddle you'll have to solve, or sort of it leads you to another answer card. And from there, if you get the correct answer, you're going to be given some more riddle cards. These give you more hints into further puzzles and sort of keep moving the game along. Lastly, some of the puzzles in Exit are pretty darn hard. You may need the help from the help deck. There are 3 cards per puzzle, and if you do use them, your score will be lower at the end. But some of the puzzles, like I said, are very, very difficult, and you may need a hint or 2 just to solve them. So I'm keeping this review nice, short, and sweet, so I just avoid spoilers. I'm going to say this is a really cool experience. It feels like an Exit game. But just like normal Exit games, there's a lot of sort of like little negatives about it. Some of these I feel are very similar to the negatives I had for Unlock. Largely the biggest negative here is of course the one and done experience. Once you've played it once, I mean, that's it. You know the solutions of the puzzles and you're probably not going to forget them anytime soon. So really there's really no replay value. On top of that, just to add a little bit of another negative to that, Exit does require you to sometimes fold the cards or destroy components, rip things in half, poke holes in things, some sort of combination. You're going to be messing up the components. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't ways to save the components, but personally I feel that is way more trouble than it's worth. This is a MSRP value of $15 per game. It's not too bad, and honestly, if you divide it with at least 3 friends, that's $5 each. That's not so bad for at least one night of fun. So another sort of negative, and I feel this is kind of the same with Unlock, is that really I don't feel that there's enough to do. Every single puzzle basically follows a linear fashion. Once you solve one, you get the next one. Then there's another one. You can't really be trying to solve 2 or 3 puzzles at the same time. You could maybe get started on a puzzle later on, but until you get certain hints, it's really going to be really hard to kind of solve those puzzles early on. And so just kind of like Unlock, I feel like the optimal player count here is going to be maybe in the 3-player range. You maybe, like I said, you could add 1, maybe 2 more players, and at least you'd have the extra brain power, but I don't think they'd have a lot to do. They wouldn't be really looking at many components. They would all just be sort of a group talk thing. And that's not necessarily super bad, but I do like escape games that give you sort of a lot more to do and sort of divide up tasks, just like normal escape games typically do. That being said, there's quite a few pros to the Exit series. The biggest pro, it is not an easy escape. The puzzles are quite deviously hard. I did not expect them to be as hard as they ended up being. Maybe some puzzle whizzes out there, it'll be super easy, but considering I've done many escape rooms, probably at this point we've gotten to maybe, I would hope, 50% escape rate, but we might be like 40 or 30. Some of them can be pretty difficult. But even with that sort of prior knowledge to escape games, this I still found really difficult. And that could also largely be because Pharaoh's Tomb was the first time I've ever tried the series, and sort of it was new, and I wasn't really expecting to have to destroy components like so willy-nilly, and poking holes in things, and folding cards, and ripping them in half, and just things like that. I really wasn't expecting that. So some part of it's sort of newbie experience. The next few exit games I may play, I probably will have slightly, more handle on what to expect. So another pro to the exit series is that there's really no set time limit. Most escape games have an hour time limit. Exit does it a little bit different, where they do set that time limit, but they do allow you to go over it, and you just suffer some consequences on your final score. So I don't think you can go wrong with Exit. I think it's a pretty good escape room sort of supplement. It's slightly different than most escape room games, and I kind of like that. Again, the only barely bad thing is that, once you're done with it, you're done with it. There's no really recycling this game. It's sort of one and done. And every single game is going to cost $15, so that can add up over time. But, if you at least play with a few other people and you divide up the costs, probably not so bad. So that's it for this review. I will see you next game night. Bye. I hope you liked that review, and if you did, a like, a subscribe, maybe even a comment. Always appreciated and welcome. And basically, stay tuned for further content. I'm going to be reviewing even more escape room games as time progresses, and then I'll give kind of a big sort of overview of which one I think is maybe the best of all the series out there.